Detroit is a city that is known for its huge ties to the car and auto industry, giving it the suitable nickname of the Motor City. However, if you mention the city of Detroit to lovers of the sweet science, it's not cars, factories or garage machinery. The first thing that might come to mind might be something that looks like this.
Nice shot by Julian.
As he goes upstairs, no chance of South there.
Julian gonna win it right here.
Down goes Jackson. A left hook by Joe McClellan almost sent him through the ropes.
A left hand. Durant fights off the ropes.
Oh, he's out.
He was out before he hit the canvas. At a minute 58.
That's it. Stop the fight.
Oh, good right hand and then the left for Moore. It started with the right, and now Moore has Cooper up against the ropes. Oh, but down he goes!
The city back in the 70s and 80s became known for creating some of the most exciting fighters we have seen since the sport's inception. They are quite often better known as Kronk fighters, who of course came from the famous Kronk Boxing Gym, which was run out of the oldest recreation centre in Detroit. But how did this gym in a Detroit basement create a factory of over 30 world champions, and an exciting style that is still used and admired to this day? Well, it all comes down to one man, Emmanuel Steward. So let's dive in to how he made the Kronk such an establishment in the sport of boxing. The centre was created by a Polish-American man, John Kronk, who won an allocation to build a community house in a Detroit neighbourhood, Atkinson Park, and it would be in May 1922 the Atkinson Community House opened, which included a swimming pool, gymnasium, auditorium and athletic fields outside. The building not long after its opening would be renamed after Kronk in honour of his service to the city and the community. John Kronk would later pass away in 1954. However, it would be another man born in West Virginia who would continue the Kronk legacy through the sport of boxing. Emmanuel Steward would pick up an interest in boxing at a very young age after being given a pair of boxing gloves as a gift, and from that moment he touched them, he had a fascination for the sweet science.
Totally fascinated by this game of jumping around, hitting someone, making them miss you, hit them, let them miss you, and there was no really boxing on TV or no particular person or no parent that was involved with me. I was just totally fascinated, I guess, naturally by boxing.
Coincidentally, he then would move to Detroit with his mother, a city known for its rich history in boxing, with the likes of legendary heavyweight champion Joe Louis starting his boxing journey there too. Steward would begin his training at Brewster's Gym, the famed gym that produced the great Joe Louis. As an amateur fighter, Steward compiled a record of 94 for 3 and won the 1963 National Golden Gloves title at bantamweight. He had the option to go pro and work with another Hall of Fame trainer, Eddie Futch, but the timing was not right as he had to support his family and decided to become an apprentice electrician. In 1971, Emmanuel Steward began training his younger brother in the Kronk Center basement boxing program. After the younger Steward won the Golden Gloves tournament a year later, Emmanuel decided to quit the electrical company job and became a regular boxing trainer. Steward's coaching helped turn Detroit into a hotbed of some of the best amateur boxers in the country, creating a unique reputation, with many calling them the Motor City Bombers. It became a gym you couldn't just walk in and start training due to its reputation. Before you were even allowed to box, young boys had to show up and prove they had the work ethic of a boxer. They had to be there on time, jump rope, jog well before they could do anything inside the gym. And then after 2 weeks, if they were able to do these workouts, one of the Kronk trainers, Floyd Logan, might let them put on some boxing gloves and teach them how to fight. Over the next 3 decades, under the guidance of Steward, the Kronk Gym would produce 50 amateur boxing champions, with some of them going on to win gold at the Olympics. A truly remarkable achievement. But the name Kronk would really start to get worldwide recognition in the 1980s.
way Kenji has fought this fight, tactically, you'd think he were the puncher, not Espana. Espana was hurt by that right, which followed a left. Look at that left. Again, Espana head jarred backwards. Again, and there he was staggered, and Kenji is all over him. And Espana is holding on, and he's hurt. He is wobbly. This kid is putting on some show. Elmer Kenji. This kid and Tommy Hearns will do it. Espana's defenseless. He is not going down, but he is. Larry Rosadilla has stopped the fight in the 9th round, and the new WBA lightweight champion of the world is a 24-year-old kid who has won it in his 17th professional fight. Elmer Kenji.
March 2nd, 1980, the Joe Louis Arena. Elmer Kenji becomes world champion by knocking out Espana. Not only that, 2 other Kronk fighters were on that night, with Mickey Goodwin and crowd favourite Thomas Hearns, all winning in 3 upset victories. But when the Motor City Fists came flying out and knocking out each champion, this was the night that put the Kronk on the map. Even Joe Louis himself was in attendance to see the start of greatness. Emmanuel Steward himself was even quoted saying that Detroit was now in the big leagues of boxing, simply saying, "It's the mecca of boxing right now, I'd say." From here, we would see the Kronk become a factory of champions. This would include the likes of Milton McCrory, Jimmy Paul, Dwayne Thomas, Mark Breland, Gerald McLennan, and Michael Moorer, alongside many other top Kronk contenders. But what made these Kronk fighters so exciting to watch? Well, they were all coming for knockouts.
And here's Thomas still punching back.
Looking good, Dwayne. Hang it, babe.
Kronk kind of thing could be a distraction. There's an example of intimidation. Mugabe just stumbled in, was wide open, and Thomas still did not blow a punch. He's being intimidated by Mugabe. There's a solid left. Now goes Mugabe. A left right to the throat. And this might be over. It was a left to the throat. Well, Tim, we mentioned some guys when a fighter takes a beating, he's never begins to wind down. Troy with no trouble slipping in, and he gets Rose, and there's another good fight to the side of the chin. So Guest in more trouble here as the 6th round comes to an end. Guest about ready to go down, and there he goes for the 4th time, and again you can't be saved by the bell. So even though time has expired, the count is 6, the count is 7 as he gets up. And now Zach Clayton finally in.
Described him as a bit of a plodder, but he got there. He's been a world champion, and he may well be a world champion again. What a good left hand. And I don't think he's going to get up from that. He's flat on his back. There's Andrus looking anxious, and it's been called off. Well, what a turn-up. Only the 3rd British boxer to regain a world title, and as if to acknowledge the work that's been done by the Kronk team in Detroit, he hoists his teammates in the air. What a finish by Andrus, and he's done what only...
Not a hair on his head. This time the left hand catches Mugabe, and Mugabe's defenses are anywhere but at the Albert Hall tonight. And he's gone again, and Mugabe won't survive this. It's the 1st round, and he doesn't know where he is. And Mugabe is ready to be taken, I'm afraid. The former world light middleweight champion, now all too vulnerable to heavy punching. And McClellan of the United States has won the vacant World Boxing Organization title in under 3 minutes.
Emmanuel Steward up on his feet, shrieking at Moore to come back to the center of the ring. Slowly Moore does it. And now, with blood flowing from Moore's nose, he resumes the attack at center ring. A lot of blood
face.
Looked like a new cut.
And Moore scores twice with the uppercut, and Steward is down again.
Boy, that's a knockout.
Good stoppage.
Knockout.
Good stoppage by referee Chris Wallison.
Well, you don't see many heavyweight fights.
As you've just seen, the Kronk Gym had a reputation for developing fighters with heavy hands and knockout power, mainly due to the technical proficiency Steward drilled into them day after day in that basement Kronk Gym. However, when most think of the pinnacle Kronk fighter, the first that will come to mind is one of the Four Kings, Thomas Hearns. He was tall, lean, and with a reach of 78 inches, which he used to deliver powerful punches from distance, allowing him to control the pace due to the leverage and offensive power he had. For me, Thomas the Hitman Hearns epitomised what the Kronk style was all about. He was also a very skilled boxer with very good fundamental footwork, a great jab, but it was that devastating right hand people wanted to see. He would go on to become an 8-time world champion in 5 weight divisions, all while sticking with Steward in the Kronk Gym, the factory that had crafted him from the very beginning. The reputation Steward had built up in the 80s by creating world champions with an exciting style that fans adored would turn Steward into the most wanted gun for hire, being sought after by some of the greatest champions we've seen, including Julio Cesar Chavez, Evander Holyfield, Oscar De La Hoya, Prince Nassim Hamed, Oliver McCall, Jeff Fennick, and Miguel Cotto. However, it was 2 heavyweight champions he would have most success with, including Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko. For Lennox Lewis, it was a defeat to Oliver McCall in 1994 that led him to end up working with Steward as his lead trainer, and arguably you could say this was one of the best things to ever happen to him. Steward was then instrumental in developing his skills and refining his style, teaching him to use the jab much more effectively and to be patient in the ring before setting up that right hand, while he was also able to avenge his defeats to Oliver McCall and Rackman in one of the all-time great revenge knockouts.
Will Rackman get up, or have the tables been turned? Is it reversed? 7, 8, 9. It's over. Lennox Lewis got revenge.
But huge credit has to go to Steward in terms of helping Lewis with his mental game to develop the confidence to bounce back from those devastating defeats. It was because of Steward's guidance and training which helped Lewis finish his career as the last undisputed heavyweight champion we've seen. Lewis wrote the following about him after his death. "Manny always told me I was the best, but the truth is, he was the best, and I'm grateful, privileged, and honoured to be counted among his many historic successes." The success of Lewis no doubt caught the attention of Vladimir Klitschko at the time, and even though their partnership suffered a shaky beginning due to a loss to Lamont Brewster, Dr. Steelhammer stuck with Steward and trusted him, teaching him to use his jab more effectively and to use his height and reach to his advantage so he could set up that right hand, but also so opponents would struggle to get on the inside of him. You can't deny that Steward helped repair his fragile confidence after those defeats, contributing to him becoming a multiple heavyweight world champion and the longest reigning heavyweight champion we've ever seen. But now it's important to go over the Kronk style and the teachings of Emmanuel Steward.
My attack on all of my fighters is a solid left jab. The jab is my key, but ultimately I want to knock out.
People think of the Kronk Gym. In Detroit, they think of boxing people, think of the Kronk Wars, think of the gym culture.
Kronk is where Tommy Hearns came from, you know, Gerald McClellan, some of the great like knockout artists of the past. And Kronk Gym from Emmanuel Steward was known as being a very offensive style of fighting. They have heavy jabs. They don't touch you with the jab. They're smashing with the jab. Big power in the right hand. Like Kronk was an attacking, aggressive style. Like they were all known. Like they would wear those Kronk shorts, those yellow golden shorts. You saw a guy with Kronk shorts on, that motherfucker came to kill you.
Sugar Hill, how would you define the Kronk style?
I'm always teaching that Kronk style, that Kronk attitude, the Kronk punching. Everything is just Kronk to me, because that's the way I was raised, and that's what was instilled in me through Emmanuel and all my years of being down in that hot, sweaty gym in the basement and watching everybody else do it. So that's all that Kronk attitude, the Kronk style. You're trying to hurt somebody, you're trying to set up one big punch, remembering what you've done and remembering what the opponent has done when you do certain things. It all plays a part in that Kronk style and getting a knockout. Everybody wants to get a knockout because it's exciting. It makes you feel good to hit someone off the knuckles and they fall down and, you know, maybe not get up. And those kind of things make the highlight reels. Those kind of things bring excitement to that person's name, that fighter's name. Makes him a better fighter, makes him believe in himself more, and maybe makes other people fear him.
The Kronk style of boxing could be characterized by its effective aggression and good fundamentals. I would say the style emphasizes on the use of a solid and varied jab to control the pace of the fight and create openings for more powerful punches. For example, a jab cross or a jab uppercut. The fighters also use their technical skills and footwork to move forward and mount an aggressive attack to apply pressure, but at the same time could quite as easily box in the back foot to try and retake center ring or better position themselves again. And as you've seen so far in this video, Kronk fighters are known for their punching power and ability to knock out opponents, always looking for that chance to KO, basically with the aim of not relying on the judges as the outcome.
You got two fighters in the ring, and you've got a referee, right? And then you got three judges on the outside. Well, those two fighters are put into the ring to settle something, settle who's the best, right? Well, if they can't settle it in the amount of time, then what do you have? You got the judges to decide. Why not take care of it yourself? That's the attitude.
This is evident when we've seen Steward push his fighters to let their hands go in the corner and making a point to finish the fight.
Ridiculous, you got a dead man in front of you and you still doing this. Just let that shit go. This fight is over with. You gonna fuck around and let him catch you with some shit if you don't watch. This man is dead out there, but he wants to quit.
Shades of Tokyo and the one time he got the Buster Douglas at the end of the 8th round. And that's gonna be perhaps the end of the fight.
The mentality of the Kronk style is also key. You have to be mentally tough and determined not only to go to war with your opponent, but to be able to come back from adversity, stay calm under pressure, which makes them a dangerous opponent at any time. This all seems pretty straightforward, but the premise of the style was that Steward wanted his fighter to have strong basic fundamentals alongside perfected technique to generate the power. First and foremost, Steward liked his fighters to have a strong jab, as he saw it as the most important punch in boxing, saying, "The value and effectiveness of this punch is often overlooked. The jab can keep an opponent off balance and can do physical damage and create openings for other punches." While the other key area for Steward was about having a good stance and evenly balanced weight in your footwork. This is the foundation on which everything is built. Proper stance and balance are major factors in defense, speed, and punching power. And looking at any of the fighters he worked with on the pads, you can tell this is something he worked vigorously on, making sure to work everything off the jab while using movement with good balance all before setting up a power punch. It was never about doing overcomplicated techniques or lots of combinations. It was all about the fundamentals. For example, when working with Miguel Cotto, he said, "When one of my fighters, Miguel Cotto, beat Yuri Foreman, he did it with the basic fundamentals of boxing. He utilized good balance, good jab, and common sense, which isn't that common. I understand it's boring sometimes to teach the basics, but that's what you have to have. I can take any boxer in the world and show them a few tricks, but everything has to come from the basics." And this leads on to when he first worked with Klitschko, saying the following, When I first had Vladimir, I had him doing just footwork, going from side to side. He was 27 then, and he'd had about 40 fights, and he said, "Why am I doing this? I was doing this when I was 14, and you're making me do it now?" He had forgotten why he was successful in the first place. I also made him rock back and forth to the right and to the left. It had a huge effect. Today's opponents don't think he's fast, but then when they fight him, they can't get near him. He will catch you when you think he can't punch, and he'll do that from a real simple step that creates space. People don't understand why they can't get to him. It's rhythm. Now sure, the basics are important, but were there any techniques the Kronk fighters did differently? Well, one of the main things Steward liked his fighters to do with the right hand was to have it in a slightly lowered position with the glove in front of the centre of the chin, instead of to the side to block hooks, for example. Defensively, it could help you catch and parry away jabs much more quickly and also protect the chin better from frontal attacks, which of course are the most common punches thrown, and could also help you catch and counter more effectively. Offensively though, it would be in a much closer position to the opponent, and you would often see Kronk fighters throw that quick, powerful cross with precision and power due to the positioning. Another way Steward's fighters would set up the cross was just the use of framing with the lead hand, by using it as a rangefinder to create an opening for the cross. This would also block the opponent's vision, and it would sometimes help force the opponent to expose their head or body. While you would often just see Kronk fighters use a simple slip to the right of the jab before returning with a right cross, or even use a lead hook to steer the opponent into the path of a powerful cross. In terms of the training Emmanuel put his fighters through, it varied from fighter to fighter, but the premise was to get them in top physical condition and be able to fight when tired. He said the following: "It's very important that a boxer gets to the point when he gets a little exhausted and then he continues to box. It's what you can do and why you're taught tired and exhausted. It's what's going to determine the fighters who are going to be the winning fighters and the great fighters compared to the good fighters. Mental stamina also is developing you when trained properly, as you learn how to compete in the continued training when you're tired and exhausted." He's also made it clear in the past another area was making sure his fighters wouldn't overtrain, and a big lesson came for him after Hearns lost to Leonard in the first fight, as many fighters get so caught up in success they forget about things like recovery, leading them to feel exhausted come fight night. While another way he would challenge his fighters mentally was by how hot he kept the Kronk gym.
Fought in when they were in the gym, Emanuel Steward would turn the heat up to 100 degrees. So when they were doing like hot yoga in the fucking Kronk gym, because he wanted to build up endurance in these guys. So when you would go into the Kronk gym in Detroit, it was hot as fuck, like really hot. And that's how he would force everybody to train.
Overall, in his own words, it was all about working the basics and the fundamentals, but also having top quality sparring.
And I gotta ask this, what's your coaching philosophy? What makes you so unique that fighters love to come to Kronk Gym and work with you?
Yeah, track record, a lot of it. We teach basically fundamentals usually. It's not basics, good condition, but basically I believe in good competitive sparring. I believe you adjust to your level of competition. So it's very important to have very good competitive sparring, and I believe in that at the Kronk Gym.
The lessons Steward would instill and teach his fighters would make an overall impact to their fighting style ability, even after moving on, and there is no denying the impact he had. After many years working with some of the biggest stars in boxing throughout the 90s and early 2000s, Steward had made enough money to go back and focus mainly on the grassroots boxing in Detroit, to once again re-establish the Kronk as one of the best amateur programs. However, in the mid-2000s, the Kronk Gym was struggling financially, while the city of Detroit was also facing a budget shortfall and announced it would be closing 9 of the city's recreation centres, including the Kronk. Steward stepped in to buy the centre owned by the city, eventually reached an agreement with them. While the rest of the recreation centre closed, the boxing gym remained open thanks to donations from supporters. But, very sadly, in September 2006, thieves broke into the centre and stole most of the copper piping. The gym was then forced to temporarily shut down and relocate to a gym nearby. Emmanuel initially hoped to reopen the centre after raising the needed money, but the shutdown would soon become permanent in November after the city determined it would cost too much to replace the pipes. In the following years, the Kronk building would fall victim to looting and vandalism. Plans to renovate the building came and went, but Steward continued his programme in another gym. Until on October 25th, 2012, Emmanuel Steward passed away. 5 years after his death, the Kronk building would be set on fire by vandals, which pretty much destroyed it. Thomas Hearns went to see the building and said the following: "It's just sad to see that people didn't value this place like we did. What this building brought for me was a chance at life. I got a chance to become somebody out of this building right here. I hope it meant to Detroit almost as much as it meant to me. This was a safe haven for me." The Kronk Gym a year later would be demolished. Despite this sad end to the original building, the legacy of the Kronk Gym, its fighting style, and Emmanuel Steward continue to live on, and have since found a new home with many former Kronk fighters, coaches, and Steward's family keeping the name very much alive for the next generation of fighters. For example, the likes of Irish middleweight Andy Lee, who lived and trained under Steward, would later become a world champion and has now become a trainer himself, continuing to pass on the knowledge he learned from the great Steward, while the likes of Tony Harrison has also gone down a similar route. But without doubt, the Kronk name has once again resurfaced in more recent years in the mainstream thanks to a certain heavyweight champion, Tyson Fury, who in fact had trained with Steward in his younger years, who no doubt learned some valuable lessons and techniques in the short time they trained together. He even predicted his rise to the top.
Tyson Fury has the ability, and I think in my expectations, will be the next superstar dominant heavyweight, much along the lines of Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko. Very talented for a big guy, unbelievable coordination, a lot of showmanship and personality and charisma.
He would hire his nephew Sugar Hill Steward, who learnt much knowledge from his uncle, and this would help him knock out Deontay Wilder to regain his heavyweight title in a very Kronk-like style. Emmanuel Steward, in my opinion, is one of the best boxing trainers of all time, if not the greatest. He developed kids from the very basics through to the amateurs, all the way to become world champions. Not only that, he did it multiple times, but he also played a big part in resurrecting many boxing stars who could have continued their downfall. Steward will always be a legendary figure in the world of boxing, and as much as he was a successful trainer, he was also a mentor and a father figure to some of the sport's greatest champions we've seen. He was a true innovator and constantly seeking for new ways to help improve his fighters' skills and performances. His dedication and passion for the sweet science are unmatched, and he will forever be remembered as one of the greatest trainers in the history of boxing. Thank you for watching this video on the history of the Kronk Boxing Gym, its fighting style, and of course, Emmanuel Steward. I hope you were able to maybe pick up a thing or two and maybe study some of his fighters. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Kronk style and who your favourite Kronk fighter was. Leave it in the comments below. This has been Jamie from Boxing Life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll leave you with the final words with Emmanuel Steward.
The single most important piece of advice I would give anyone is to basically understand people and treat people like you would like to be treated. Don't say something about someone in their absence that you wouldn't want someone to say about you if you were in the other situation. And if you just do that, and it's really simple, treat people like you would like to be treated, talk about people the way you would like to be talked about in certain situations, and put yourself in other people's position a lot in life. And don't be so quick to criticize people all the time. Try to understand them first.